I am in electrical engineering, and I do advise the IEEE, society. And in case, of course, if you're not aware, it's an Institute for Electrical and Electronics Engineers, and I've been doing it for several years now. Nice to meet all of you.
Okay, and Professor Boylan?
Hi, I'm Joe Boylan. I teach in construction management and sometimes civil engineering, and I lead the Honor Society for the Construction Management Group.
And then Professor Garcia.
Hi, this is Andres Garcia. I'm the current director of the Houston Engineering Center. I am the faculty advisor. Well, I started to be the faculty advisor of SHEP, the Society of Hispanic Professional Engineers. Then I also became faculty advisor for SWE, Society of Women Engineers. I've been co-advising the Steel Bridge Society, as well as lately the Houston Engineering Machine Learning. So I've been wearing a little bit too many hats on student orgs, but I'm happy to help. I'm happy to collaborate, and I think all of you are making a very good impact all along. And I know this is a difficult time, but we will continue to help.
So we have faculty representation from essentially all the programs within the college. I'm an honorary member of chemical engineering. So we have Tyler, we have Houston, we have construction management, civil, mechanical, electrical. Again, I wear a chemical engineering hat on occasion. So why did I ask these gentlemen to be the ones to help with this? Well, again, you heard it. They're the ones who have been working with students for a long time. They've got great experience working with students. They're passionate about it. So that's what we're doing. As we move forward, our agenda for tonight, we got a little bit of introductions and getting the meeting started. And then we're going to talk about those other three big topics. As you know, normally we would have this meeting be in person, and it would be more like 5 or 6 hours. And originally, the five of us sat and talked to one another, and we said, if we can't do this live, let's not do it at all. We feel very strongly that, a big part of this meeting is to make connections with you. And it's much harder over Zoom. But then the more we talk, the more we realize this is exactly what you folks are struggling with. To me, as we talk to students, we realize a big part of the whole collegiate experience is to make connections, to build a network of friends, colleagues, peers, mentors. And that's all so much harder in this COVID environment. So we just want to give you a few tools tonight with all that. So I'm gonna pause to breathe for a minute. Anybody have any questions so far?
No questions so far. We're good.
Okay, so what's that? So as part of that, I can only see a few faces. Everybody all at once say, yep, we're alive. 1, 2, 3.
Yep, we're alive.
All right, so that's good. Except for Nathan McNamara, he looks kind of dead, but the rest of you look kind of alive, and I appreciate that. And Nathan, I only make fun of the folks who I know can take it. So with all that, as part of the introduction, what I wanted to ask to answer was this question: why tonight? Again, we would have loved to do this in person, but under the current conditions between Houston and Tyler has had some issues with student meetings being live, we decided at least we could have an abbreviated version where we at least gave you some high level stuff to give you the tools to try to make your organization run, especially in this environment. So we've sat and talked to students, we've brainstormed amongst ourselves, trying to come up with ways that you can connect with other students, even the way things are now. So that's why we're doing what we're doing. Again, we're committing to working on a live workshop in January, but the whole point of this workshop, again, is to equip you folks to lead your organizations. And we'll do a little bit of that tonight. Kind of like you're getting the booster shot now, if you will, and then in January, you'll get the actual vaccination for what all this means. And I realize in today's environment, when I say vaccination, that means an entirely different thing to all of us in terms of what? He has a vaccine? Yes, I do. I'm going to make loads of money. No, That's what we're doing. By the way, the only jokes I'm ever able to tell are dad jokes. So if you don't like dad jokes, I don't know what to say. These is all I got. So clap along and here we go. So that's why tonight. This question now is for you. And I'm going to ask this question, and then I'm going to pause and let some of you jump in and answer this question. Why does your student organization exist at all? Why do you think your student organization exists? What's the point?
To kind of integrate students.
To integrate students. All right. That's one thing I would completely agree. Someone else.
To help connect the students to the professional world.
Yes, to connect the students to the professional world. Absolutely, for sure. Somebody else.
Inform students of things they may not know or may be afraid to ask.
To give them an outlet to, learn some tribal knowledge. They might not know it. They might be afraid to ask, but this is the real deal. I agree completely. What else?
To build enthusiasm in the profession.
To get them really connected, to let them become professionals. These are, you guys are nailing it. This is exactly what I would say. Here's the list I came up with, to enhance the community, right? In other words, some of those things that you guys are saying, make an impact to, I hope that student organizations in our college, when folks look back on their college years, they say, hey, if it wasn't for IEEE, I'm not sure I would have made it. Because I plugged into HECMO, that was the reason why I was able to finish, that I persisted, those kinds of things, to make an impact. Quite frankly, I'm selfish. I do want you to improve the UT Tyler brand, right? I want folks to know our name. So when Concrete Canoe goes out there and does really well, that's more people in Texas that know UT Tyler. And if our brand gets better, what does that mean for you folks? Do you think it impacts you? If more people know UT Tyler and know that we're excellent, does that impact you?
Yeah.
Helps us get hired.
Yeah, right. So absolutely, it helps you get hired. It helps you transition to the next job. It helps you build your professional network. So that's good for everybody. That's good for all of us. You talked about joining the profession, exercising and practicing professionalism. That's, student organizations are a place that you can practice your leadership skills, practice your following skills. If our degree is more than just a lump of technical content, our degrees should be more than circuit analysis and heat transfer, right? They should be more than that. We should be training you to join a profession. And that's the goal. And then those discipline-specific reasons, again, IEEE, it may be very specific to learn more about circuits, and I would come up with more buzzwords, Dr. Shavaker, if I knew more electrical engineering buzzwords, but in fact, I'm only just a dumb civil. So for those civil students on the call, I'm not making fun of you, I'm making fun of me. So anyway, discipline-specific reasons too. So with all that, that's my introduction to why you're here. Again, what we hope to do is talk about membership. In other words, how to meet new members, how to treat your members, to talk quickly about meetings, how to run an effective meeting, what kinds of meetings you could have, and then how to lead. A little bit of that, a pep talk and how to lead. And I want to talk to you about our October 15th event last, and then we'll wrap up and we'll get on out of here. Any questions before we keep moving forward?
No, not for me.
All right.
No, sir.
All right. So with all that, I'm going to turn the meeting over to Professor Gangone and Professor Shavaker, and they're going to talk to you for just a few minutes about how to run an effective meeting, what kinds of meetings, and how to do meetings where we are right now, which is weird, quite frankly. All right.
You want us to drive, or do you want to drive?
You go ahead and drive. I'm a passenger now. I'm just going to relax and enjoy the ride.
Stop share.
Oh,
yeah.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right. Everybody see that?
Yes, sir.
Everybody see screen?
Yes.
All right, perfect. So we're going to talk here about, again, increasing membership, how you get members involved in your organization, motivating members who are involved into actually participating and doing things and not just actually being a name on your roster. And then we'll talk about freshmen, really should be in quotes because when we say freshmen, we're not necessarily just meaning freshmen that are actual freshmen coming into the program. We could also mean just anybody new coming into the program. So I think Dr. Schvarkar is going to start us off with some of it, and then I'll come in towards the end. So.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks, Dr. Gangon. Are you going to be changing the slides?
Yeah, I got it.
Thank you so much. Thanks, I really appreciate it. Okay, so we'll talk about membership and increasing membership. This is by far the bread and butter of the organization, right? Because without good membership levels, you're going to have less people coming to your activities, less people enthusiastic about things like, for example, competitions. So we have robotics competitions, for example, in IEEE. We have paper contests. And unless you have that momentum going forward, you won't have good results, right? Also, another great, I should say, reason is you will be graduating in a couple of years, or hopefully within 4 years, right? And so then once you're gone, somebody else has to take your place as a leader. And that person needs to be groomed. So that is also a large part of your job, right? So that the organization itself continues. This is by far the motivation behind membership. And the one thing we always struggle with is you're competing against many other fun things, like going and watching football, for example, or soccer, or So how do you increase your membership? And you need to be out there and reach out to the new people and also existing people who are joining your profession. So I'm talking about across, usually you have good friends within the same class. So if you're a junior, you have a lot of friends in the junior class, but you need to reach out across the year and sometimes even across disciplines, because we have had members from mechanical, for example, and once even a civil came and wanted to work on the robotics, I believe, many years ago.
No way.
This is true. This is true. I'm not lying. I'm not lying. So, what happens is that you need to reach out and somehow connect with the freshmen, the sophomores, and so on. And sometimes this can be difficult. So some of the things I would say what you need to find is something exciting for them to do. So Mike, if you want to go on to the next slide, thanks. Okay, so you want to attract them to your meetings. And the first few meetings are critical. And of course, right now, it is difficult to get them to meetings, but Dr. McGinnis is going to change all that with his meeting next week, right? So we are going to have a very exciting meeting, and everybody's going to be all excited about at least doing the best we can under the circumstances. So you see this photo here? So would you, if you had a meeting where somebody said, oh, I have this new device, and would you go to that meeting? I know, and there's many other things that you have to do, like play video games and stuff like that with a friend. But if this was here and this is in your area, would you go?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
I probably would.
Yes.
At least, I mean, if it's so of course, if the meeting was 4 hours long, you probably won't, unless there was pizza, right? So so now, but if the meeting was, let's say, 45 minutes or 1 hour with pizza and Coke, you can't beat that. right? So of course, right now you have to get your own pizza because of this virtual thing, but this is something interesting. So you need to find interesting topics. So let's open it up. Let's say, what do you think would attract you to a meeting? And maybe you can make notes. What would attract students to meetings? Anybody, any ideas?
I mean, just an interesting topic, but that's very general.
A
Yes.
product.
A product.
A product or a competition.
Sure, that's great. That's great. And any other ideas?
Free stuff.
Yes, that is excellent, excellent. Yes, free stuff is great. That's a great point, because at least the IEEE and most organizations hand out, I do get this big package every year, and a box full of stuff like pens and things to, I even got, last year I think I got LED light with a bottle opener on the other end. So that's kind of fun, right? So, but anyway, that's so you can, that's an interesting thing. Some other interesting ideas could be, would you like to talk to somebody from your profession who's like an alumni who was out there and is now working out there, successful, and come back to give you some talk, some advice. So also fun activities together, like let's say games. We have game night sometimes, and so on. So that's good. Good ideas. Good ideas. Next slide, please, Mike. Thanks. So this is, of course, some of the results from previous brainstorming. So so we covered the first two. The last is another important item, is if the cause is worthy. So let's say recently, for example, we had this drive here to provide food to students who are, this was in the summer, I believe, right? So if the cause is worthy, it's usually attracts people. So they feel that they are doing something for society, right? Thanks. So also another way is to get your meetings to be useful, where they can actually take away something from it. A tip maybe, maybe some skills. So we used to have some meetings where we taught soldering to the students, so that this is a skill, of course. Always put on your goggles while soldering. And safety issues. There was a couple of years ago, we had a meeting where we taught them some basic stuff, like, for example, how to build a small program in LabVIEW, or how to make up a website. So if even small things, you will be surprised. Students are interested in learning, always interested in learning new things. So here is, of course, the food is important part. That's great. Looks like good picture of barbecue there. Reminds me of Stanley's barbecue in town. Hopefully we can all go there sometime. Here is your bread and butter again. You want to recruit freshmen, sophomores, and transfers. So I should also include juniors here. Some of the methods to actually increase your membership. I can give you some tips, but and a couple of ideas from anybody. What would you do, or what have you done this year?
Honestly, we did nothing, none of these. We did not provide food, pizza, nothing, but we had quite an increase in membership. And that's both because of the nature of the project. They get to design and build a new car. And we are starting a new NASA competition, even a freshman year competition to create a go-kart. So this is the project. I think, well, I agree with you. partially. I think if you provide food, they will eat the food and go away.
Yes, yes, yes. I
They
see what you're
will
saying.
not, the ones that will contribute, those are the ones that are interested in the idea behind the organization. And
Okay,
I think that is enough to me. I will
sure.
definitely myself will not go somewhere just I don't know, maybe. Yeah,
Uh,
definitely these things help.
Okay. Well, it never hurts, right? Thanks for the input. So now, so let me give some tips, okay? So I'll put a trick question to Nathan. Nathan's here from IEEE. So what is the motto for IEEE?
Um,
Sorry to put you on the spot, Nathan.
sorry, sorry about that. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the motto is to.
And if you don't know, that's fine. I can
I'm
just.
going to be completely honest here. I don't know the motto.
Okay, the motto is advancing technology for humanity. Okay, advancing technology for humanity.
I'll write that
So
down, sir.
you
Sorry
see,
about that.
oh no, that's fine. That's fine. It's this is a good motto to have. But again, see, if you can have a meeting. So we had a meeting a few years ago from the local. I should say we have local sections. So somebody came in from Dallas and explained what IEEE is all about. That may be a good meeting to have, right, for your organization. The other part is you can get faculty sometimes to reward participation. So in our freshman class, we do provide some incentives for them to participate in activities. We have also elected representatives for each level. So for example, we have in IEEE, we have a freshman representative, sophomore representative, junior representative, senior representative, and we had a graduate representative also. And so all of these can act kind of like links to each class. So you just have to send out a message to them and they can go and talk to the other students. Next, please. Thanks. So I'm going to not take up too much time because I want to go over and leave Dr. Gangon some time. But it's important that you send out communications. Right now, I think some of the methods are either texting, Facebook, and Instagram. Flyers used to be the case, but now I think you have to go electronic this semester at least. You can always go visit a class, and it doesn't have to be in person. Okay, if you want to tell somebody about, oh, we are having this event, you can tell your faculty, professors to actually go and announce it in their classrooms. If not, you can ask for the first 2 minutes of the time. Several years ago, I had this really active IEEE president, and she would always say, I'm going to have this event. Can I take the first 2 minutes of your class? And so this is a great way. You can drop in on Zoom, actually, even. It doesn't have to be in person. Okay? The other thing is the most important thing is people come to meetings or people come to organizations because they have a personal relationship with somebody. So it has to be, so for example, if I know, let's say Mike, and Mike is a good friend of mine, or at least I know his face, I know him, I said hi to him, and this has to be virtual nowadays, but if I said hi to him, if I know that Mike's going to be there, I'll come. But if I get an announcement and I don't know who's going to be there, maybe I won't come. So it's good, face-to-face communication is the best. Personal relationships are the best way to increase your membership. Okay, so I would say it also develops your network, which is very useful in the future. Am I out of slides, or do I have?
Yeah, I think there's some. I think there were some repeat ones, so I think I'm
okay.
up next.
Okay.
All right. So
I think I'll let, I'm pretty much done unless somebody has questions, and then let Dr. Gangone take over.
All righty, so now I want to talk a little bit about motivating members. So you want to get members obviously to come to your events, but not only do you want them to get to come to your events, you want them to keep coming back to your events. And not only that, you also want them to be involved in your organization. So oftentimes it's common to have a roster for your organization. And if you look down that roster, you'll see a lot of people just show up for events, but they're not actually participating, or they may not even show up on a regular basis. So if you want to motivate members to actually be active and to actually show up to meetings, it goes without saying that you want to have some meetings that are fun. You want them to have some reason to come back. So technical meetings, when you have guest speakers, of course, sometimes you can't control exactly what's going on with that meeting because you're letting the guest, speaker come in and speak. But not every meeting has to be a guest speaker. You can have some meetings where you're doing some type of a fun activity, some type of a social event. Again, trying to keep people coming back to your organization. Now, those who are part of your organization, you want them to be involved. So if you're seeking out volunteers to do something, ultimately you want to make sure that if they're doing doing what they said they're going to do, appreciate them, appreciate what they're actually going to do, make them feel rewarded. So these are, again, important things. Obviously, all of us want to, if we're doing a good job and we're going the extra mile to do something for somebody else and really not getting any satisfaction other than maybe self-satisfaction, but you want to be rewarded. You want to kind of get that pat on the back. Another thing I would say is think about a resume builder. So again, I've actually reviewed many resumes of students that have come by my office and said, can you take a look at my resume for me? And they're like, I'm not really sure what to put on this resume. And, think about, encouraging them to be involved, but also, sell it as, hey, it's a resume booster. It's something that you could put on your resume to show other companies, or to show companies what you've done and that you're willing to take an extra role. All right. So again, when I talk about increasing membership, you want to be appreciated, you want to be rewarded. So again, when you're doing that and you have a volunteer doing something, it's so easy to focus on something that didn't necessarily happen. So for example, they were given a task and maybe they accomplished some things out of that task, but not everything. You don't want to focus on the things that necessarily didn't get accomplished. Think about some of the things that did get accomplished. All right. And then of course, if somebody does volunteer and does something, goes the extra mile for the organization, acknowledge that person, not just acknowledge them publicly, but also personally. It means a lot if you actually have one of the leaders of the organization or multiple leaders of the organization going up to somebody and say, thank you so much for all the work you did. We really appreciate it. We couldn't have done it without your help. You really did a lot for us, and we greatly appreciate it. And that gratitude goes a long way, because then later on when you need something else, they're going to spread the word to other people and say, hey, look, ASCE or IEEE or ASME, ASHARE, they actually appreciate the work that, their volunteers are doing and members do for their organization.
Of course, that gratitude is real.
Yes, right.
Of course it's real, but I did that very thing today to my boss. My boss solved the problem for me today. I didn't go in and kiss my boss's behind. I just went in and said, look, because of you, we solved the problem today. Thank you. And I meant it. That's all. But it's so easy to not do that. So it's a big one. Right. If somebody's done something good, the best thing you can do is tell them. Look them right in the eye and tell them. Anyway, there you go.
Thank you.
I have a question, Dario, sorry.
Sure.
So I tried to do that, but is there a mechanism? Can we think of a structure to announce that more publicly? In person, yes, we can do. We don't need any infrastructure for it. But if we have some sort of structure in place to acknowledge the contribution of students somewhere on a board, I don't know. So do we have something like that to announce?
Nope, but it's something we can talk about after this meeting. I'm taking a note, so.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, the one thing we do have, most departments have officer leadership boards. So, if you're an officer in an organization, your picture might be up on the board outside the department. Not every case maybe, but most cases. But that's pretty much it. But I like that idea. I think we should do something like that. So normally this particular activity would be something I'd have you break off into your groups and actually go through it and do. But let's just discuss this as a group for a second here. So suppose you took a leadership role in your organization, whether it's an officer position or you volunteer to lead some particular activity of your organization, and you want to make sure you put that on your resume. All right. So if you were to put something on your resume, say you're the IEEE vice president or whatever it might be, right? What are some things that you'd want to make sure you hit on in that discussion on your resume, in that thing that you're going to put on there, so that it looks attractive to organizations, companies that are going to hopefully hire you. So what are some things that you might want to highlight?
Your responsibilities in the organization.
Oh, perfect. Exactly. Right. Yes. Or your responsibilities, what they are, right? Outline them. Don't make them guess. Don't just put vice president of IEEE. Put a vice president of IEEE, and what is your responsibility as vice president of IEEE? Right. So great. Anybody else?
Any key accomplishments, such as coordinating an event?
Perfect. Exactly. So exactly. What are your accomplishments? What impacts did you have as vice president? Again, those are great. Perfect. I like that. Anybody else?
Any project you're working on with that organization?
Yep. Projects. Good. Yep. So your involvement, what exactly you've done. Great.
Successful teamwork.
Teamwork. I like it. Yes. Right. Teamwork. Leadership, various things like that. Yes. You definitely want to hit in on some of those things as well. Now, what if you were to, lead a technical area, of your organization? So maybe you're part of, I'll just use Concrete Canoe for right now, and your job was to be do some of the structural analysis of it, right? So what might you want to put in there in your resume for that?
Speak about any programs that you used.
Programs you use, yep. All right, so again, all these are great things. So again, this is just an example of something you might put on your resume if you were the Concrete Canoe analysis chair, right? So if you read through this, it says managed a 6-person team to complete a structural and hydrodynamic analysis of a 20-foot watercraft under dynamic and static load scenarios that accounted for material variability, structural stiffness, and load application anomalies. All right, so just in that paragraph for that particular bullet, you see obviously a lot of technical knowledge that you walked away with there, but also if you looked at the very first few words there, it says managed a 6-person team. That's leadership, right? And what goes along with leadership. All right, so there's a lot of different things. And the next bullet down, again, motivated membership, meeting schedules and budgets and milestone. Again, all these things are not necessarily highly technical, like the structural analysis side of things, but they are very, very important. All right, those are things that companies look for. It's one thing to walk away with here with just some technical knowledge, but it's another thing to be able to walk away with some other types of skills as well, and what we call sometimes soft skills, right? So again, this is just an example of something you could put on your resume just for this particular position. So again, try to be detailed, but also try to hit on some buzzwords, I guess you could say: managed, leadership, communication, and then of course some of the technical side of things.
Especially jumping in the soft stuff.
Right.
They figure from your degree that you have the technical piece. We just sat with 10 employers literally 3 days ago, and all 10 of them said, the most important thing for us is, can your graduates communicate? And these were employers that I know well, that have hired many of our graduates, that think that UT Tyler graduates are a cut above many of the other programs that you're now thinking of in your mind right now. They know we produce, but what they like the best is those communication, soft skill kinds of things they're not sure they're getting. So this is a perfect place for that on your resume. All right, sorry to interrupt, Mike.
No, you're good. All right, so we talked about a lot of these things, but then the last 2 bullets here are points and food. So, one of the things you might think about doing is going to an instructor in your department or multiple instructors in your department and say, hey, we're having a big meeting for whatever your organization is. Is there any way you can maybe help encourage some people to show up to those meetings? Points maybe. I know for me personally, I actually require students to show up to a certain number of meetings every semester. Because I teach a lot of junior level courses especially, and I told students actually not too long ago in my fluid mechanics class that, hey, look, you're juniors and some seniors, you should be plugged into your profession by now. If you're not, then I don't know if you really want this enough. And so, I encourage people to show up, and actually I force them to, but now that I force them to show up, or if somebody awards points, now it's your job to keep them coming, right? So again, you're not going to necessarily, faculty is not necessarily going to get points for every single event that you have, but now that, I got them to your meeting, you want to, try to keep them there. And food doesn't hurt. At the end of the day, yes, some people are going to show up for the food, but at the end, if you can get them to show up for the food and you can somehow hook them to actually wanting to keep coming to your meetings, and it's not just the food that makes them want to keep coming, that's a good thing. So we talk about freshmen, and freshmen is in quotes here on purpose. I have a couple more slides. I know we're running a couple minutes late, but freshman doesn't necessarily mean just the actual freshman. HEC, we have a lot of people from HEC here. How many freshmen do you have on campus?
-1.
Yeah.
So we don't have any freshmen.
None, right? Exactly, right? So you don't have freshmen. And in fact, even on the Tyler campus, the number of freshmen we have is very little. As a college, Dr. McGinnis knows the numbers better than me. We're about, what, 70% transfer over as a college, right?
Closer to 80.
80% of our students are transfer students, meaning that a majority of them are not coming in as freshmen. So you got to get them, whether they're a freshman or an incoming transfer student, right? So again, junior. So when we say freshman in quotes, it doesn't necessarily mean an actual freshman. It just means a new student to UT Tyler. And you want to get them connected to your organization. How do you do that? Well, class visits are a great way to do it. Now, obviously, in the COVID world right now, we're not necessarily having every class being face-to-face, but maybe you talk to an instructor and say, hey, can I jump in on your Zoom class for the first 2 or 3 minutes to just discuss my organization or our organization and try to get people there. You have, ask faculty to post things on their Canvas sites for your class or for your organization, especially if you just give them something to actually post, cut and paste. It really isn't too bad. So visiting classes, even if it's virtually, would be helpful.
I want to interrupt you, Mike. Sorry about that.
Yeah,
I have a point here.
Yeah.
I have facilitated these talks in few years now. Sometimes the student that shows up is not encouraging himself or herself. Mm-hmm. They start talking there. This is the next time we have a meeting. Show up. That's it. They don't have a slide. They don't show the product. What I think the organization can do a better job preparing those few talks. And this is a discussion in some cases I see.
Yeah.
So just want to add that.
This will actually be covered in the next little session about meetings. Absolutely. Because even that little visit to a classroom, that is a meeting. Mm-hmm. And we're going to talk a little bit about that in the next little section. I completely agree with you, Dr. Kaja.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, you definitely want to send kind of your best salesperson or salespeople to there.
We're definitely running behind here. So,
okay. All right. So again, what doesn't really work, at least for initially group me, Facebook, those are good reminders, but not a good way to actually get people to initially come to your particular meeting. So obviously there are challenges, especially during COVID, a lot of things being virtual, again, unfortunately, this is just how it is. And a lot of things are virtual and we have to either adapt or just not do anything at all. And I think it's better to do at least adapt and try something than not do anything. So again, even if people are sick of being on Zoom, think about, showing up to classes virtually to hopefully get some people. So, all right. So that's all I had for this particular segment.
Very good.
Any questions? All right. So I'll go ahead on to the next one then, which is on meetings. All right. Okay. And so I think Dr. Garcia, if you go start this one off, and then I'll jump in towards the end.
That's correct. I think some of these were from the membership. If we can go, I think until 6, will be perfect.
Yeah.
Well, hi everyone. We're going to start with defining meetings. As far as everybody think that having a meeting is having something organized. By tradition, some of us think that a meeting is piece of time, but it not necessarily have to be that. A meeting, as previously defined by Mike, it can be a 5-minute interruption on a class, and we need to be very, very assertive on how to use those 5 minutes that a faculty is going to give us to make a point and invite people for our organization. In previous times, it was kind of easy to walk into a room and previously scheduling that with the faculty and say, hey, can we invite a group of people? Can we participate with this? And it will be a little bit informal. And that was fine because it was just an invite. Now, if we're going to interrupt the Zoom meeting at the very beginning, we need to be extremely assertive. We might have maybe a minute or two, not as long as and we need to have the ability to show and the ability to have all the information handed on the very first 2 minutes of that Zoom meeting. Those are two types of meetings. One is a meeting for inviting, and another one is going to be the effective meetings that we are going to have through the course of the semester. One thing that, if we can go to the next one, we're going to go into effective meetings. It must be publicized effectively, whether we're going to walk into the room or we're going to walk into Zoom. It needs to be already with intention, explaining where are we going to meet then, what is going to be the meeting about, and it needs to be basically something that we are going to invite to do a hands-on. It cannot just be a unidirectional meeting. It cannot just be, I'm Esmeralda Martinez and I represent the Steel Bridge competition, and she just start talking and there is not a way to interrupt. We are trying to engage people, so we need to leave in a space for a feedback. It needs to be very well organized, and it cannot be just that I show up at a precise time that the meeting is supposed to start. Let's go to the next one. So one of the things that we usually inquire when we have this session in a face-to-face or presential meeting is, what do you think about this meeting in particular? Because this is a meeting as well. This is a meeting of basically explaining meetings. But what is one thing from today's event we did well? Any feedback from anybody?
I think,
or anything that can be improved?
Well, I think so far all the professors have given us really good ideas on how to try and connect with new members and trying to, increase membership and everything.
Another good thing was that the professors and faculty are trying to show how to, they care about the students' organizations farther than just, being a job for them. So they're showing initiative.
Thank you.
What else about the meeting is going well?
I think, since I'm not a part of this meeting, so I can also as a faculty talk about this, I think, because I'm invited like any other student. I think the idea of having few faculty sharing their ideas and brainstorming and letting us even interrupt you and interactive communication between us is brilliant. And this is even easier in a Zoom environment. You are taking benefit from the Zoom setting, and this is great. And thank you for that.
So a couple things I'll point out. We started on time. We had an agenda. We had something from the moment we started. And for Zoom, we checked the sound. We checked to make sure people could see what we wanted them to see. We showed caring, I hope. So those are just a few things. How about, what could we work on? What are some places already you've noticed, hey, if I was doing this, I would do it differently? It's okay, we can take it. Oh, there's no courage in this group. No courage at all.
Think of anything.
No, me neither.
I think it's going well.
So I'll throw out a few things.
I think.
Go ahead, Dr. Kacha.
I think one thing that I would like to have is after each this discussion or after each faculty talking, a few minutes for Q&A and how to improve, to talk about how we implemented that idea if we did, and if not, how we are going to implement it, from the student organization. That would, I think, will enhance somehow.
Great feedback. The two things I would comment on, I would say, as a group, we probably need to talk to you more about COVID, more about, okay, how do you do it now? In terms of, that's what I think that I fell down in that space. How do we do, what are we talking with COVID? And then, yeah, I love we could be more interactive, Dr. Kaja says, in other words, and we're struggling with that. We're not for nothing, but we're all old. So this whole virtual environment for us, we need more feedback from you. So those are the two things, again, but I think we're doing okay. All right, keep going. Let's try to get back on schedule.
So something else before we start with these meeting questions is that for a meeting, there was a plan for this meeting. You were invited for this meeting on time. It was not like at 4:35 you got an invite saying, "Hey, can you jump in?" No, you were invited. The Zoom link was provided accordingly, and like Dr. McGinnis mentioned, he tested everything to make sure that at 5 p.m. everything was going to be ready to go. Okay, he coordinated with everybody in the faculty side to make sure, and he took some advice and feedback on how to provide this thing. So it's not only the meeting itself, it's everything before that.
And before the meeting is just as important as the meeting. That's one of the big things we want you to take away from tonight. Before the meeting is just as important as the meeting.
And typical things that we recommend for everybody to be careful when you're planning a meeting is that even though you have a plan, maybe the plan might be too broad. Sometimes brainstorming in a meeting is not really a good idea if the things to decide are too big or too broad. That might bring the whole meeting to an argument, or it might bring everybody into different directions. You want to have a meeting that will be completely firm, almost with an intention, okay? Giving options, accepting suggestions, accepting, feedback, but having a plan to go in one direction. You're not going into a meeting to, well, we're coming to the meeting, but I would like to know what can we do today. That's completely, okay? I thought that we can meet so I can see what is your opinion about. Well, you can ask for an opinion on another method. You don't necessarily have to be either face-to-face or on Zoom. You can do it on an email. But so on a meeting, it's more of deciding things, receiving some feedback, but start things slowly, see one step at a time. And do not go very big on any kind of decisions because you might not have the audience or not everybody would be available for that kind of that. It's just a meeting. Okay, let's go for the next one. This is once again for everybody involved in here.
We're probably
talking about effective meetings. Think about something that you can do or that it will be in a plan for your next meeting on your student organization. Give 3 thoughts about the best way to enhance the topic. Pre-planning, what we were mentioning, how will you communicate to the students? We talk about walking into the meetings, into the classrooms on Zoom. We talk about maybe sending a mass email through students, through faculty, through Canvas. You will have, and this is something that I would like to make an announcement here, but might sound as an announcement, but you count with every single faculty. You count with everyone, with the administration staff to deliver a message. It's really difficult to make an advertising right now physically because we don't have that. So during these times, take advantage of that. If you need something, please ask. Any one of us. We will route you, we will guide you to get as much as an impact as far as offering information. Anyone would like to bring up an item that you guys are thinking about on a next meeting for, let's say, IEEE or ASCE, SHEP?
One thing that we do in IEEE, we started this semester, is having Power Hour, which is every Friday from 1:30 p.m. to 3:30 p.m., where we can mentor other students on, say, like electrical engineering homework and other related items. And so I guess a few thoughts that you've mentioned that I could use towards that meeting would be such as sending out, making sure to send out a notification, maybe send a reminder after that. Make sure to have a plan for the meeting, even though it's more of like off the cuff, if the student has an issue, then we help them with that. Maybe plan out something a little bit more. And as far as success, maybe ask the students for feedback on how everything went, and so you can always improve.
I think another thing that has worked for ACE, at least I did it once and it worked pretty good, was announce the next meeting on, let's say if we're having a meeting this week, once it's starting, you announce the next meeting, and so people kind of have it in the back of their head already. So that's one thing. Another thing was before the meeting, I kind of sit there and like think to myself, what do I want to say? How do I want to start the meeting? Like, I'm really bad at, let's say, just like going with the flow. So I have to have at least some type of key points that I want to hit. So that has helped a lot too, to kind of like, of course I want to be genuine, but that kind of comes naturally, but there are some key points. So that has helped. And then throughout the meeting, I try to take notes of the key points of the speaker. And that has helped at the end to kind of close it out and like kind of relate to the students. Why is this important to them? Why should they care about this? And I try to do that, and I think it has helped.
That's great. And there is an underline on what both of you just said, is that you are conscious already, okay? And that's part of the leadership. You're conscious of what items needs to be pre-planned. For example, Nathan had previously agreed that he's having a meeting at noon where there is no class. Another thing that we took in consideration for this meeting is we either had this meeting at noon or we had it at 5. And the reason of this pre-planning is that at 5 we have more time to extend rather than being constrained by just the lunch hour. So it's good to plan things. It's good to obviously you guys were having some feedback about the time that you could do it and the best way to take advantage of that. And Luisa, this is the slide. Do not be afraid to lead. If you're planning, do not be afraid to express and to make a point on what is your goal for that meeting.
So I'll jump in here with 3 little quick things, and then we're going to wrap up this session. And I guess the 3 little quick things are, I love do not be afraid to lead. If you think back to the very beginning of this Zoom meeting, I asked you, hey, turn off your mics. Many of you actually have them back, or have your mics turned back off again. But I wasn't afraid to tell you kind of the way I wanted the meeting to go. I wasn't afraid to call on each of our faculty and have them, bang, introduce themselves. I didn't wait to figure out which one was going to, which one was not. In the Zoom environment, sort of Zoom hygiene, if you will, is very interesting. And if these are the kinds of meetings you're going to have, think through how your Zoom thing is going to go. So I'd say that. The second thing I'll say very quickly is when we talk to students, 2 kinds of meetings seem like they might be good ideas in COVID times. One, like video game hangout meetings. Again, I'm old. For me, that's Pac-Man. I know it is not for you. Maybe asteroids. You don't even know what those are, but they were, anyway. But it was suggested to me many times that a good fun meeting is a video game meeting. Discord is another one that I was told, hey, you know, I have a 12-year-old son, so I've heard of Discord. Otherwise, I wouldn't, because I'm an old person. But those are the kinds of things you have to kind of think through. What would I actually spend my time on? So again, that's it, I think, for now, in terms of effective meetings. Effective meetings happen before the meeting, means you have an agenda. And I loved what Luisa said. She takes notes. In other words, she has notes from the meeting. So if you made a decision, she's got it written down. Great stuff. All right, so we're gonna skip ahead to the next session. Any other questions before we start that next session? I'm trying to take Dr. Kaja's feedback in. Anyone have any questions before we keep going? Question and answer time for a minute or two here.
How's everybody doing on getting, like, if you want technical speakers? How do you?
What do you mean?
Finding a speaker. Can you find one?
Find one?
The same. It's actually easier because they don't have to even travel. They can just do it from the workplace or at home.
I can speak for ASC in Houston. We reached out to the professional chapter, and right now we're just waiting to hear back to see if we can get some speakers in. We've given them the dates and times. So it's just about waiting on communication right now.
Let us know if you struggle. Any of you, I mean this, let us know, these five faculty and Dr. Kaja for that matter, and I see Dr. Arnold's joined us as well. If you tell us, hey, we're having trouble finding a speaker, I'm willing to bet money that almost all of us, and believe me, I don't have a lot of money, so I'm willing to bet all of us would help you find one. Alumni. I'll just say that word, and that's all the time we have on that one. Any other questions?
I just kind of want to say that I also know quite a few of the speakers that have came to the ASCE chapter or spoke for the UT Tyler chapter. They've told me that they're willing to, speak. So if you're struggling, they have also told me that they would be okay with us giving their contact to other people. So.
I would like to make another suggestion for meetings, okay? And this is, I'm talking about maybe from the Houston side, but I'm pretty sure this is happening on the Tyler side as well. I have the tendency to suggest every single student organization to get meetings together along with another student organization, because we usually have people that we have one that might be the secretary of this organization and might be the president on another one and treasurer in the other one. And if he has to be on 3 different meetings, it's forever. So sometimes planning an all-around meeting, especially if it's going to be like a board meeting, things of that nature, sometimes it makes more effective because everybody will be there and they don't have to divide their time in 3 different type of meetings that might be scheduled at the same time. That's a suggestion.
Quickly. So I would like to suggest to think of generating a product again. And in every meeting, if you have an agenda, let's say if you're preparing for a competition, making a robot, generating a program, whatever, if you have something in mind, that will definitely create the topic for the meeting automatically. You need to take minutes automatically. You have a topic of it's just this automatically, all of this comes in if you are developing something as engineers. So even something new, something cheap, think of some competition, national competition, developing some product in your student organization and take part in these. That's a big encouragement also to recruit, so just a suggestion.
Okay, Doc, any last? Going once, going twice, sold. Okay, Professor Boylan, you're up.
Sir. Great, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
I try to share my screen. Let's see if it's working. So can everybody see the screen?
No, not yet. Now.
Yeah.
Leadership Fundamentals, do you see it?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay, great. So let me go ahead and start. So I have a slightly different bent on how I want to approach this from what you've heard. So the first part is, and the next slide down, why me? So tonight you're hearing from a lot of great professors and some of the best research leaders in the country. And I have to sadly tell you, I'm not blessed in that company. I'm not one of them. But what I am is I am a leader from the outside who's come back to the academic world with two basic passions. It's to train young leaders, particularly those who are going into an engineering environment, on how to lead, because that's not the natural persona, or my experience is, that's not the natural persona of an engineer. You're very focused, you're very technical, you're problem-oriented, and the problem with leadership is people-oriented. And somehow you have to meld those two worlds together. And in my background, briefly, just to say it, just to bring some credibility, is, I did graduate from the home of civil engineering in the United States. I consider where I went the birthplace. These other guys are just imitations. But after a couple of years of leading combat units and leading, a large Army program, federal government, I've been the CEO of a couple of companies. Me and 3 other friends launched a public company in London for almost $500 million. I have some experience in training young leaders how to quickly absorb into and become effective, but also explain why you were so critical to the team. Why do we want you to be successful, which is really the bent of tonight, which I'm going to go to the next slide then. So the first thing, pretend I am the CEO of a company and I just hired you as a young professional to come in, and I have a group of engineers that I need to form into a community that I would like you to grow them professionally and personally in such a way that they grow as people and they grow as a great asset for my company. What would my first conversation with you be the morning after I hired you when you come into my office? I know right now that you are kind of throwing and grabbing everything that's going around, but you haven't coalesced it into a plan yet. And for me, as a leader, it's important that a leader start with some skeleton, and then you can grow that to be what you want it to be. So my intent tonight is to pretend that I am your new boss, and I want to explain to you why you and your organization are so important. That's you and your organization. And I want to give you a skeleton that you can hang off of to start putting on all these little pieces so you have an effective plan when you start. You know where you're going, you have an objective, and then you can grow and mature yourself over time in doing it. So the first thing I want to back up is, why are you important? Well, I want to explain, at UT Tyler, in a profession, we are a trustee organization. And when I say trustee organization, there are a lot of schools that are giving an education, a lot of universities, a lot of colleges. But within that, there's a smaller set of organizations that actually train professionals. And I'm not talking about professional baseball players or football players or somebody who's going to get a PhD in archaic English. I'm talking about, our job is to train out professionals, which means we work in a capacity that the society trusts us. We're going to do something that society needs us to do. And if we don't do it well, somebody's going to get hurt. Somebody's going to die. We have a special privilege of working with society. And here's what society wants us to have. When you graduate from UT Tyler as a professional engineer, or you could be a nurse, or you could be a doctor soon, or you could be a lawyer where people's health and welfare and society is depending on you, society expects the university to do 3 things. A, you got to get specialized knowledge. You need to know stuff that the average person doesn't. The second one real fast is, I'm glad you know what brain surgery looks like, but I'd like you to have done it before you do it to me. And the last one is, I want you to be morally trained that you will make a decision before you decide to close me up. If you decide to go or no go, I want confidence that your ethic and your morals were such high that I know when you said, nah, I'm sorry, Joe, there's no more we can do. I need to trust you ethically, and that's what it is. Now, I can translate that very quickly to you guys. No matter what engineering we do, there will be something that we design. Let's say it's a cantilever porch. When Mike brings over all of his 800 friends to come to his new house, and we have a cantilever that's 15 feet in the air, yes, and Mike's got all of his barbecue coming from Stanley's, so that's 6 tons sitting on the end of the porch. I want to have high confidence that Mike Gangon knew what he was doing, had built a Porsche like that before, and in fact, when I go get my ribs and have to crawl over Mike to get to him, it's not going to collapse. That's what makes us as a professional. We are a distinctly different group of people in what we do. So here's the good news about it. So I just gave you an example. I'm not going to do that one. I'm going to go to this one. Here's what you need to understand. In our organization, in the classroom, I have to spend the majority of my time on target number one, transferring expert knowledge from me to you, the student. We still need to accomplish, you need to take that info and go do something with it. You need to fail. You need to break it. You need to blow it up. You need to take the red wire and touch it to your tongue and realize 12 volts hurts. I mean, you need to do stuff to know what the limits and the way of doing our job is. And you need to make critical decisions about the moral, the ethics that are required in our job, because we have to make hard decisions. The space shuttle, somebody had to make a decision. Should we fly or not fly with 35 pounds of ice on the side of it? What we do, how we do it, and the decisions we make require us to have that. In our education goal, your club and you as the leader are how we do number 2 and 3. You are the route by which we get to do contests and activities and modeling and put stuff into practice. We learn the boundaries. Sometimes we go to concrete canoe, we win. Sometimes we fail. You know, a great football coach that I know says, every loss is a chance to learn. And that's how we have to approach everything that happens in the club. We need to have a number of hands-on activities that allow us to learn and grow and fail and learn. The next thing that I'm encouraging you to do as a leader is create an environment where we ask people ethically, why and how should we be doing this? What are the right things and what are the wrong things that we should be doing interacting with society as we go through it? As an example, you got a bunch of other ideas, but we need you and we need the club. In this case, if you're now in my company, I need you as a leader to create an environment where my brand new engineers are wrestling with critical technologies, critical decisions, learning how to do it properly, but more importantly, learning what's the right thing and the wrong thing for our company to do. Without you, we do not grow. I heard somebody say earlier, you know, you cannot fail. That's true, but you cannot grow. Our clubs are how we grow the whole student body and our whole place so that we can develop great professionals. So quickly, because this is an adjunct of what we would do for a long time, I have to jump along. So I'm asking you to be a leader in my company. And I want you to understand leader is part of a big word called leadership. And if you break up the word leadership, lead is a process, leader is a person, leadership is means and methods that you make that happen. So I would like you to leave tonight, go out to your job knowing, here's what I expect out of your leadership. I want you to create a process whereby you influence a group of team members to achieve a common goal. That's the simple definition of leadership that I would like you to put into practice in your club. You are going to create a process using all the great tools everybody gave you tonight, by which you can personally influence a group of people to go to a common goal. And here's what I'd like you to learn as a brand new leader. Find some common compelling goal that everybody thinks is important. I found that people clamor to get on the right bus if they think it's going to the right destination. If you're still advertising the destination or you're advertising the where, and you're still getting lukewarm response, you haven't got a common compelling goal yet. There is something that people want to get on board and get done. That's the way that you can grow quickly as a young leader. Find that common goal that people want to get to. They just don't know how and how to put it together to get there. Find a common thing that gets them to want to work with you and go through it with you. So here's my suggestion. If I were going to give you 5 things to hang your skeleton on, if you did 2 of these things in a meeting during the course of you have 10 things that I think you could focus on that people would want to know. And I kind of pick questions that are common to everybody. The first part is I would like you to form group meetings where everybody knows, number one, we're preparing them, they are the focus, to be prepared for their professional exams and certifications that are important for them and where they're going in life. Help your club meet their need to define, I want to be an engineer to I am an engineer. That's a big step. Coming in the door as a junior, they're asked, I'd like to be an engineer. By the time they graduate, they need to change that sentence to I am an engineer. You need to help form identity. I would do 2 or 3 activities that help them interact with people, certifications, exams, get ready for stuff that are road marks or hurdles right now for them getting from point A to point B. Develop their identity. The second one is I would put them through as many tests and competitions and interactions as I can so they know in their heart of hearts, I'm really ready to do these things. I'm ready to take this exam. I'm ready to do this certification. We're ready to go compete against Texas A&M. Mike keeps asking us a question of how about COVID? From my point of view, living in the real world, COVID is every day. As an example, the last company I was in charge of, our major manufacturing season was come up 3 days before we were supposed to start our October, December manufacturing where nobody could take leave. Our whole headquarters and factory burned to the ground. Monday morning, we were not sitting around talking about, well, our company is out of business. Monday morning, we were talking about, okay, COVID happened. I still need to get there. What am I going to do? A leader adjusts all the time. The common goal is so important. You just got to work through it. You got to find a way around it. You got to gut it through and find a way. You just don't close down and pretend life's not going to happen. We can afford to do that in the university because, you know, okay, it's 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. In real life, Apple goes away. If Apple doesn't do anything in a quarter, all the investors leave, Apple becomes a vegetable, a fruit, and it no longer exists. We just don't have that opportunity as leaders. And we need to be able to adapt and adjust to what's happening. So the second one then is, am I really ready? We need to find ways of doing that. If COVID says I cannot go to Texas A&M, break ourselves up into 2 or 3 groups. Go get groups from Tyler and here. We may not meet in the same space. Well, great, we'll do the competition as best we can as we go through it. We have to find a way to make life happen despite the realities, because outside, COVID's happening in a number of different ways all the time. I think everybody talked about it tonight. The third thing I would do if I were going to ask you as a leader is everybody comes into my organization and they know nobody. I consider criminal in 30 days later if they don't know at least 10 people, and then 10 more people, and 10 more people. By the time you're in the company for a year, you should know everybody within your community. An extended community. I think we have a number of alumni. We have a number of companies. If you just focus twice a year or 3 times a year, bringing in 2 or 3 alumni, 2 or 3 companies, that network of professionals grows like crazy. The fourth thing I would do is I require your organization or my engineers, I would purposely give them some ethical, moral issue in their profession that they have to wrestle with. Mike and I, we use our senior CE capstone course. We take the bridge that failed in Florida. You know, that's a perfect example for us. That was a university design build. It was like civil engineering inside of UT Tyler built a bridge and it collapsed and it killed people. We can go back and look at all those decisions and say, would you have done that? Was that the right thing to do? Here's what I'm talking about. They have to go from their personal ethics and they have to develop a professional ethos. You need to think and act like engineers in our profession. We need to be able to handle that thing. The next thing I would ask you to do, the last thing as a leader, is leave a legacy. I would ask your group, you came, you were here, you participated. When you leave, did that become a blank inbox, or did you leave something that represents a standard or a mark for the group behind you, a challenge, if you will? Leave something behind that lets everybody know you were here and you made a difference. Now that could be redesigning a project, that could be winning a contest, that could be setting up some new process for them, but leave a mark that says we achieved something as a group, and it's important for the legacy of our organization. To Mike's point, it could be the brand of UT Tyler. It could be leaving a statue in the cabinet that says, now try to beat this next year. There are a number of ways that a group can leave a legacy. But for me, to come together, to work together, to sweat together for a year, and then when you leave, the room looks exactly the way it did when you showed up, is wrong. You should always leave your fingerprints as leaders. You should always make an improvement and leave something as a sign of hope, as a challenge, as a motivation for the people behind you to achieve. So we don't have time. I'll be glad to send you these slides later, but I put together a set of slides about what should you do to create a compelling and a high value goal. I would start with the first one. Make sure that whatever the goal of the organization is about them. Make sure that it's them. If you can make sure that everybody is as tied into as many things as possible, that they already told you was important, you've got all kinds of motivation in showing up. People disconnect because it's not them. They may not personally invest in it. Find a way to make everybody part of something and do it often enough that they feel compelled to show up. I would like to argue a word that's said tonight. I want you to lead tonight understanding two things. Leadership is not management. Management means to follow a set of activities and processes to achieve a known outcome. Somebody who makes hamburgers at McDonald's is a manager. That's management. Leadership is about seeing a future that currently does not exist. It's a goal. We are going somewhere where we have not been before. It's very important to us. And the only way we can get there is working together to a plan that we put together and we accomplish it together. That's what a leader does. That is not showing up every day and making sure that the budget is done, the doors are open, the lights are on. That's all management. Creating a new university, creating something new, creating something that you're going to leave behind that nobody did before. That's leaders. Leaders make new things happen. It's the bottom one. Managers view people as a resource. You're part of a resource to do something. Leadership looks at things to make people. By doing these things, we're going to make people better. It's completely opposite of each other. And the last one I like to talk about, you've stepped up to the plate. I think it's great you step up to the plate. And the hard part that you're going to have to start putting into practice is you're going to have to start taking ownership and make decisions. And there's a very simple decision matrix that somebody taught me a long time ago. You can take good and bad decisions, right time, bad time, and you can put it in a simple matrix and it will tell you exactly what's going to happen to your team. Leaders need to make decisions when the team needs them made. In fact, we were in a group go around this afternoon with Mike supervising it, but it's, you know, when I go to a leader, I'm going for a decision. And I need a decision by a time because the plan calls for X. Focus as leaders, being ready to make decisions. You need to make a decision, a good decision, at the time the team needs it. If you make a great decision late, your organization gives up. If you make a bad decision at the right time, your credibility is lost. And if you make a bad decision at the wrong time, you're not a leader. You need to make sure that you are ready as a leader to make the decision when the team needs it and make it a great decision. If you make great decisions for your team, then you can do what Steve Jobs says. Why, my closing comment to you tonight is, why would we spend all the time and energy getting the brightest, strongest, most motivated students to lead an organization, and then we let you do nothing, or we turn around and we tell you what to do? Why would we do that? You know, you're motivated to take people someplace. If you will just make sure that that someplace is something everybody wants to go, and you spend the time to make sure everybody's got a vital role in getting there, and you lead them and equip them, and you make the right decisions for them and with them, you're going to have a great year. Honestly, this would be the 15-minute speech I would give you in the organization. I would give you the slides. I tell you, there's your group of people. In a week, come back and give me your plan. Tell me how you're going to put this into practice with a starting base. Now, make this your own and make the year your own, and I'm going to be excited to see where you're going to take the company. That's all I got.
And
Thank
let
you.
me tell you something. If you teach this in a class, please let me know. I'm here to enroll. You got a new student here. I really enjoyed the talk. I really benefited from your talk. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I don't know who's next, Mike.
I am, but I'm gonna. Can you stop sharing your screen for one moment?
No, I love sharing it. I want you to read it and read it and read it.
So what I would say is, first of all, if you folks can listen to Professor Boylan and not get excited, then I don't know what to tell you. The man knows how to lead. He really does. We could all learn a little something from him, Dr. Kaja. I'm going to share my screen now, but before I do, does anybody have any questions? Okay. By the way, just so you know, I never went to teaching school. None of us did. But if I did go to teaching school, one of the things they do teach you is, does anyone have any questions? Is a terrible question. So I committed the fatal flaw. Does anyone have any questions? So I'll pause one more time. Anybody have anything they want to add?
I would like to know if you are going to share the slides with us.
So, all right, so I'm going to share my screen now, and I'm going to answer that question as well as a couple others. As part of, everyone can see prep for October 15th? Yes? Nod? Yes, everyone's alive. Okay, good. So what is October 15th? We have scheduled an all-college, all-student meeting for October 15th at 12:30 p.m. What is the purpose of that meeting? We are inviting every single student in the college. Why? Well, it's an orientation and an open house. We'll spend a couple minutes, and only a couple minutes, going over what it means to be in the College of Engineering. Some basic stuff. If you're new to the College of Engineering, what's our culture like? How do you get answers? That sort of thing. Basic orientation. That'll probably take 5 to 10 minutes, tops. The rest of that meeting is for you folks to introduce your student org to the student body. So what I'm giving you is two things for you that I suggest you do for that. One, a 3 to 5 minute pitch so I'm going to give your student organization, 3 to 5 minutes to talk to every student in the college, everyone who shows, right? In that 3 to 5 minutes, if it were me, I would make 2 to 3 slides. Don't make more than 2 to 3. 2 to 3 is enough. And you really just have to cover a couple things. These are really coming down to what Professor Boylan said. You're trying to tell them where you want to go. That way they know whether to get on the bus or not. What's the main point of your organization? Hey, what are a couple things you're really proud of about your organization? How do they get involved? And how might this benefit them, right? Make it about them. Just coming right behind what Professor Boylan said. So my last comment on this little thing, it's not a 10-minute pitch. Because if all of your organizations take 10 minutes, then my meeting takes 4 hours, and I don't have a 4-hour meeting. Does that make sense to everybody? Nod, say something.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so my next question is, can you do that? Can you be prepared for that 3 to 5 minutes that you get?
Yes.
Of course.
Okay, I heard of course and yes from only 2 people.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes.
Okay, because quite frankly, at this point, I'm counting on you, right?
Mm-hmm.
My credibility is now at stake, right? My credibility is I'm going to invite every student in the whole college to attend this thing, and I'm going to turn it over to you. I'm counting on you. I am counting on you, right? I want you to spend that 3 to 5 minutes, and I want them to leave the way I left Professor Boylan's comments at the end. Like, they're ready to run through a wall to join your organization if it's the place they want to go. So again, pre-plan that 3 to 5 minutes, make some slides and put somebody on it that's passionate. Make sense?
Sure.
Okay. So that's October 15th. That's 12:30 next Thursday, right? 3 to 5 minutes. The second piece of that, I'm going to ask each student organization to have a breakout session after our all college meeting. In other words, have something where the students who are interested in your group can then join. It could be a video game meetup. It could be a Zoom breakout. It could be a Teams meeting. It could be Discord. Ask yourself what you would want to go to. If you had 15 extra minutes, would you be willing to spend it on this thing where you might not know anyone? you know, would you do it as something that I'm not sure I want to commit to this at all? Would you at least try it? Ask yourself that. Does that make sense to you?
Yes.
Does this make sense to folks? So
that's your recruitment, right?
this is an opportunity for you to meet new people and for new people to meet people. I think this is one of the hardest things that we're all struggling with right now in COVID, in terms of so many of us are not actually in the building, whether in the building means here in Tyler or in Houston. So many of us are not in the building. We're virtual. So plan a virtual event that folks might be interested in actually doing. Folks your age. I mean, I can plan, you know, reading the great works of Shakespeare, and the 5 of us running this, we'd probably all be very excited about it. Maybe not Dr. Gangone. I hear he's a civil engineer, so he barely knows how to read. But the rest of us, that might be what we plan. I don't want to plan that. I want you to plan it, something that someone that has your interest might actually do. So let me ask you this question. Can you do that?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Okay, so here's my last question. Do you think that this will be valuable to your student organization? Is this something that will be helpful to you?
I think so, big
Yes.
time.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Yeah.
It'll be very helpful, yes.
I'm seeing a lot of nodding and a lot of folks saying, yes, this will be helpful. Okay, so that's what October 15th is. So I'm giving you 2 pieces. Let's go back, right? You gotta be ready. And I will call on you during that meeting, right? I will say your student org name, and I want you to jump in like boom, boom, boom. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go, right? And then as the last part of your little spiel, tell them, hey, here's what we're doing, right? For today, for you to get to know some people. Sound good?
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
How are you going to do those breakout sessions? Are you going to do like the little rooms, or are we supposed to make our own meeting and have the link ready?
I am not going to manage the breakout rooms because I'm old and I'll get it wrong. So I want you folks, give them a link, tell them where to go. Not the way you're thinking now. Tell them where to actually go. Don't tell them where to go. Right? Tell them where to go.
Yeah, we'll just have a link right then.
Yeah, you have a link. If it's a Discord thing, fine. If it's a Zoom breakout, fine. If it's, you know,
right.
Whatever it is, you figure it out. You tell them. Fair?
Got it.
All right.
Sorry, I have another question.
Yes,
Will it be up to us to share our screen, or would you like us to send the slides over to you?
I will allow anyone to share their screen, so I hope we don't get Zoom bombed, but it will be up to you to share your screen.
Okay.
And at that time, feel free, if I'm sharing mine and it asks you, hey, this will stop sharing Dr. McGinnis's screen, that's fine. You're not going to offend me. Fair?
Okay. Yeah. All
right. Anything else on October 15th? All right. So let me just wrap up. It's 6:30. We're going to go 3 minutes, 3 minutes too long. I apologize. For those of you who know me well, you're getting extra bananas right now. I'm sorry. So to wrap up, full in-person workshops in January, that's the goal. We covered hopefully how to treat your members, how to maybe recruit a few new ones. We covered meetings. Again, I hope we gave you a little bit of advice about how to have meetings in COVID. And we tried to inspire you a little in terms of leading. I think the 2 key takeaways I might have from Professor Boylan are: 1, make sure you know what the destination is, right? Okay, what are we trying to accomplish? And everybody should be wanting to do that same thing. And then the second piece is make it about them the best you can. Make it about them the best you can. So, and in terms of meetings, my big takeaway is the pre-meeting is just as important as the meeting itself. And members, for me, my big takeaway is, hey, if I treat people well and I care about them, they're going to come back, right? You folks as leaders, I hope that you're thinking, how do I serve my members? How do I serve somebody who's new to the college, right? How do I serve somebody who's new to electrical engineering or who's new to construction management, or, you know, et cetera. So I hope you think about that. And that's the way I'll lead this. the folks who are here, you know, they didn't have to be here, right? The faculty that showed tonight, I asked them to come. They could have said, I'm busy. They're, you know, they should be at home at this point. They're not. We really want you to do well. We do. I certainly want to thank Professor Shivaker, Professor Boylan, Professor Gangone, Professor Garcia. Please say thank you to them. I certainly want to thank them for sure. Thank you for contributing to this.
Well, thank y'all for
Thank you, guys.
out of your time for us.
Thank you.
So much. Everybody
you.
took the time out to be here.
Yeah, the other thing I'd say is we had a couple of faculty member who are, you know, faculty advisors. I saw Professor Arnold. I saw Professor Kajai here. Certainly, again, those are advisors who care. So if you don't know who your advisor is, or, you know, you're struggling with one of those things, reach out to somebody who was here tonight. We'll point you in the right direction. So folks on the call, faculty on the call, did I miss anything?
No, I think this was great. I believe I'm excited about next week personally. So thanks for arranging everything. I think this is great for the student body.
So we know it's a little harder this year. We do. We know. But in some sense, I think what Professor Boylan's big comment to you was, hey, he ain't grading on a curve. It might be harder, but we're not grading on a curve. And if we think we are, then we're probably selling our members short and selling ourselves short. I know some of you pretty well, and I can tell you that very soon you'll get a little reach out from me where I want to sit down and talk to you about, hey, you can be even more than you already are, and you're already pretty amazing. So keep that in mind. You're already doing great. We're just pushing a little bit. So with all that, that's all I have tonight. Thank you so much for spending some time with us. I know you gave up your time for your organization, so thank you for that. Thank you for all you do. And we'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you for participating.
Thank you.
I am going to leave this Zoom link open right now. So if you folks, the faculty are going to leave. If you want to stay and chat, life is grand. I'm going to leave the Zoom link open, but the faculty are going to leave.